Well, thanks so much for joining us for this edition of Making Sense, where we talk about our finances, our financial institutions, the current trends, and what's on the horizon as well. Joined today by Alex and Justin from Forest Area Federal Credit Union. Gentlemen, thanks so much for joining us. Tonight, we are talking about New Year, new resolutions. So we're going to talk about starting off the new year with some financial resolutions, especially when it comes to saving. And saving's important. If we've learned nothing else, savings is important, right? Got you guys?
Yeah, it never hurts to have a little off to the side for those unexpected things, or even if you're saving up for a goal. So it's a good habit to create.
But it's not necessarily an easy habit to create, or sometimes we, at least in our mind, think we can't do this. So during tonight, we're going to talk a little bit about some tricks and tips in order to get to the part where that is one of those habits that we've incorporated into our 2025. And if anyone has any comments, suggestions, maybe something they've tried, just go ahead and leave us a comment. We'd love to share it with everyone that's tuning in. All right, so gentlemen, what should we consider if we want to make a savings plan for the new year? What kind of things should be on our radar?
Well, Northern Michigan, I'm going to tell you, there's two ways you can take this, or you can blend it all together. You can go really heavy and get really serious, or you can say, hey, I'm just going to see what I can accomplish and give this a try. There's a couple of different approaches. Everybody needs to figure out what might be the best approach for them. So as I start off here, it might be a little bit on the heavy side, because what I'm going to tell you to consider is think about defining your goals. What is it that you're trying to accomplish? Are you trying to save? Maybe you don't have anything in savings. Are you trying to save that first $100 or that first $1,000 to get a savings started? Are you trying to create an emergency fund in case the furnace goes out or something else? Are you saving up for a vacation? Or are you in a different part of life and you're thinking about retirement and you want to have a savings plan around that? Maybe there's a large purchase, a home or an automobile in your future, and you're looking to save a down payment for that. Maybe it's for your own or your children's education, or maybe even you want to start a little self-savings program for charitable giving, because that's part of your resolution for the year, that you want to get more involved or get started with an involvement in charitable giving. So defining your goals and really thinking about, what am I trying to do here? And you don't have to have just one goal. We'll talk a little bit later about setting realistic goals, but define the goals and decide what it is you want to do. And then from there, take a moment and assess your current situation, because this brings it back to realistic, right? So what can I accomplish in this goals realistically? That might involve looking over a budget, or at least taking account, how much money do I have coming in each month or each week, and how much is going out, and what's left, and how much of that can I put towards a savings goal or a savings plan. And then while you're doing all that, again, stay realistic. Don't set goals that aren't going to be obtainable, because that's going to lead you probably nowhere pretty quickly. And so you want to be realistic. And then you need to start thinking about, what am I going to do with this savings? Where am I going to keep it? How am I going to keep it safe? Do you want to put it in your bank or your credit union? Is a savings account or a certificate of deposit or a money market account the right place? Or is an envelope in the freezer the right place for it? That's all going to be up to us individually, where the right place is. Only warning I'm going to give our viewers is that when you're thinking about where to hold this money as you're working on your goal, put it someplace safe. A high risk investment account is not the place, probably, especially if we're working on saving our first $100 or our first $1,000. You don't want to put any of that money at risk. So really giving some consideration to those things. Think about tracking your progress, because a good goal is something that you want to be able to see where you're at any given point and see if you're on target or not. So think about those things, and while you're at it, maybe work in a mechanism where you can reward yourself for meeting goals. That a reward doesn't have to cost money, although it could. But when you reach a target, maybe find a way to reward yourself and keep that momentum going.
Yeah, as I think about what a savings plan looks like, it brings me back to the other popular New Year's resolution when it comes to losing weight and
Yeah.
going to the gym, right? I mean, it all kind of comes together as Justin talks about setting goals. As you set your New Year's resolution to be more fit, usually you have a goal, whether that's a weight loss goal, whether that's certain weight, like certain weights that you're trying to lift, whether it's bench press, or all those things. You got to set out and have a plan of what you're trying to accomplish. Um, as you think about your incomes and your expenses and all that, I could liken that to working out as well. I mean, when you have food coming in, that's kind of what you have coming in, and then when you're working out, like that's kind of what your expenses are. So thinking it as relating it to that, because working out is not something that is hard to talk about. People talk about it all the time. Sometimes talking about money and trying to figure out what money looks like is a lot harder to figure out. So if you begin to think differently about it and think more of it like working out or trying to set good habits, it's going to be a lot easier to try and navigate that conversation.
And just like losing weight or getting in shape, this is a goal that takes time. Like if we could all wake up tomorrow and have a retirement account and be jacked, we would all do that, right?
Yes.
But these are things that take time. If they take time, every journey starts with a single step. So what are some easy ways to get started to maybe get a little momentum going when it comes to saving and creating that savings account?
Yeah, I'll jump in first. Just what I would say here is start small. You're not going to go to the gym and start bench pressing 300 pounds, right? Start small, whether that's say, hey, I'm going to start with $50 a week or $50 a month or whatever you can fit into your income and your expenses. Start to do that because it really is trying to build a habit. If you can build the habit in the beginning, over time, you can continue to build on top of that. So that's where I would start. One other kind of tip that I would say here is go through some of your expenses and find your subscriptions, because we all have those subscriptions that are hiding within what we're doing, whether that's Netflix, whether that's, I could list 100 of them, right? Just different subscriptions that we've got. You see commercials about it all the time of go through them, figure out where some of those wins can be, getting rid of some of that stuff, and take that money immediately and go save it. Just a couple small things there that you can take a look at.
Well, that makes total sense. Get that momentum going. Get that low-hanging fruit. Get the easy stuff, because chances are there may have to be some tough decisions. Justin, anything you want to add on that?
Yeah, there's a lot of things you can do. The banker side of me says, work your budget, find out where your budget's at and say, hey, I've got X number of dollars that I can afford to put away every month. I'd tell you to, set up an automatic funds transfer, set up a separate account for that. And, that's the banker side of me. But okay, if we want to get a little bit lighter, let's get a little bit lighter. What's really simple? Coin jars. Do you have a jar? I know maybe we're not using as many coins as we used to, but coins, dollar bills can go in there too. Have that on the nightstand or on the dresser. That's a simple way to get started. And if you're not going to take the time to go through a budget and make a plan and all that, maybe like a weight loss challenge, just challenge yourself to see if you can do it. There's a popular one out there called the 52-week challenge. This challenge, in week 1, you put $1 into your savings. In week 2, you put $2 into your savings. Well, in week 2, now you have $3. If you keep doing that, now week 52, that cost you $52 that week. So it does get harder. That's the part of challenging yourself. But if you do that for 52 weeks, you end up with $1,378 at the end of the year. So why not challenge yourself to it? Another fun challenge, if you're using cash, maybe you say, hey, anytime I get or I receive a $5 bill, that $5 bill goes into savings. Any other bills that end up in my wallet or my purse, those are fair game for whatever I want to use them for. But the fives, and pick your bill. Maybe it's a 10 or a 20 that you don't spend those go into savings. There's financial tools that do this also. Many credit unions and banks have roundup purchases, but you can do it yourself. You can go through your bank statement and, when you're swiping your debit card, there's 48 cents is what makes up the next dollar. Figure that out each month. make that your challenge. Can you do it? Can you figure out what that is? And usually, it ends up to something. And sometimes starting that small is the best way to get moving. Just give yourself a little challenge. You don't necessarily have to go through the whole process of budgeting and analyzing and setting goals. You could go as simple as just making a quick little challenge for yourself and seeing where it goes.
Yeah, one other note, Mark, can I jump in there?
Yeah.
Justin said something that reminded me of it. A lot of banking apps nowadays have budget tools built into them. And so you can go into the app, they can analyze your income, analyze your expenses, and they can kind of build something out for you. And then you can kind of tweak it as you go. But that's a good way you don't know where to start. If you don't want to jump in with pen and paper to try and get an understanding of your expenses and your income, that's a good way to kind of get started, just to get a general sense of where your money's going and where your money's coming from.
Yeah. And like, again, start simple, just like with, like, say, a weight loss goal, where if you're saying, all right, that's a big goal and a lot of factors, but the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to stop fast food. I'm not going to do fast food. Same implement could be used with our money. If it's like, okay, I'm going to brown bag it, or I'm going to make coffee at home. Start simple, get some momentum going.
Yep.
Right. All right. What kinds of goals do we need to consider when we make these plans?
It's some of the things we've already talked about. Know your budget, set the realistic goals. And if your budget isn't working, look for those areas to trim costs. Subscriptions and entertainment spending is usually the first place we recommend folks start looking. Set a dollar goal so that you can say, oh, I'm going to try and do X number of dollars a week. But, if that doesn't work out, maybe just say, hey, I'm looking for that first $100. And once I get there, then I'm going to reevaluate and decide what the next goal is.
Is it really important to set multiples of goal? I mean, we would all love to have $1 million in our savings account, right? But that's going to take a long time to get there. So is it important to set achievable goals so that we get that sense of, I'm doing something? It's not forever down the road.
It is. And I would say set that goal, work towards getting there, and then reevaluate it once you're there. The same goes for if you don't get there. Reevaluate the situation. Take a spin around. What's going on? What can I do? What can I change? Do I need to change my goal slightly just so that I can feel and see that I am actually making progress? And you never know. You might find yourself working up to a bigger goal, such as maybe once you get down that path and you've reevaluated your goal and you've set the next higher benchmark, maybe one day you say, all right, my next goal is I want to have 6 months worth of expenses set aside into savings so that I know that my expenses are covered for a 6-month period if something happened to my income stream, for example. So those are all things you can do.
That's an awesome goal, but for somebody that has nothing in savings, that's a big first step to take. So do those manageable goals. All right. As with anything, sometimes life happens and a roadblock comes up and your plan gets derailed, whatever that plan is. If it's a weekly savings goal or whatever, or you have to tap into that 6-month plan because your transmission and blah, blah, blah. So what happens if we do run into a roadblock?
Yeah, a lot of this type of stuff when you're dealing with money, a lot of it's psychological, right? You run into a roadblock, just like going to the gym. Maybe something happens where you don't make it for a week, and then you're like, all right, well, I guess I'm just done.
Yeah.
What's important is to acknowledge that something happened and kind of reflect on that. Really have an understanding of how you got off track, right? The biggest thing is don't be too hard on yourself. It's very easy to beat yourself up in those scenarios. Oh, I can't figure this out. I'm just not good at money. So I'm just going to continue going without dealing with it, right?
Right.
So don't be too hard on yourself. Identify what happened. Kind of review where you're at. Was that just not an attainable goal, or was there something that jumped in the way? And then kind of reassess and then go forward with that. Whatever you have to do to change to kind of get back on track. Whether that's setting maybe a different goal because maybe it was too much in the beginning. And keep moving. Don't give up.
So we have to give ourselves grace, as with most things in life, right? But oftentimes, can it be a situation where maybe the goal wasn't too big? Maybe we really have to look at our own behaviors and choices and be like, oh, that's why this isn't working. It's actually because I'm not doing the things that I need to do to be successful. Does that happen often?
Absolutely. Yeah. That's probably one of the biggest things is it's hard to get out of the lifestyle sometimes of trying to keep up with the Joneses. I mean, that's an old term, still very relevant today, right? So trying to make sure that, it's okay if I don't go out to eat all the time, or I don't have the nicest things because I'm trying to do something different with my finances.
And that could be and hi Mark for saying hi. He's joining us in the comments. Appreciate you tuning in, Mark. That can be hard because you don't want to be the one that's like, nah, can we go? Do we have to go there? It's expensive to go there. Or instead of doing that, why don't we go for a walk? That's not as much fun, but sometimes you have to put off the fun, right?
Yeah. I remember early on when I was working through this stuff, we did half off Applebee's. I mean, that was the thing back in the day is you go and get water and you get half off Applebee's, and that was a treat.
Right.
Those types of things they're out there. I mean, yes, cost of living continues to go up, but those types of things are out there where you don't have to spend that high dollar.
So there's saving can be difficult, right? Especially if you I think that once you kind of get in that habit and you start to experience some success, just like losing weight, when people start commenting and you start feeling better and you start feeling healthier and stuff like that, it kind of self-perpetuates itself. It makes it easier to stick with it. But saving money is difficult, both emotionally as well as financially, right? It's like that is a complex goal to try to take on, right?
It sure is. And, some of the things that make it so difficult is it takes effort, just like going to the gym or working on any personal goal that you have. It takes effort, and effort can take energy out of you.
Yeah.
So that alone makes it difficult. And then if you add on, we have basic needs, housing, and food and heat. I mean, these things all come at a cost, and we have to factor that in, figure out how we're going to afford all of that. So it just compounds and makes things difficult. And then you throw in the fact that we are being marketed to almost around the clock. I mean, advertisements are in front of us, especially with our handheld mobile devices, cell phones these days. It's really incredible what businesses can do in order to market to us and get in front of us and plant that seed and that idea of spending money in our minds. And then on top of that, we're seeing the price of consumer goods are quite high. At any given point, there's something in the grocery store that seems like it's costing significantly more today than it did even a few weeks ago. So all of those things play into making it difficult to create a savings plan, stick with it, or even if you're just doing a simple challenge with yourself, it can be easy to get derailed. So keeping a little focus on it and setting it as a priority is important to overcome those difficulties.
Well, and it's not just companies that are marketing to us. You go on your phone and you scroll through social media. No one's posting their brown bag lunch on their Instagram, right? Like, and you think everybody else is doing great, but you're only seeing the highlights, and a lot of that's not even real. So remind yourself of what your goal is. And again, if you've achieved some of those goals, it may make it a little easier to stick with it. If people have questions and like, nobody likes to admit they don't make enough money, but nobody makes enough money, right? Like, we would all like to have a little more cushion, at least. Is asking for help, that can be hard, but can that help? Can you go talk to people that like you guys that know how to do this, that have helped other people through this? Is asking for help encouraged with this resolution, just like with every other type of resolution?
Yes, absolutely is the short answer. We've actually invested in some of our employees here to become certified financial counselors.
Okay.
And so they actually are certified through one of our organizations that we utilize for training and stuff. They're certified to be able to do exactly that, where they can help walk through your expenses, what type of income you have coming in, and just help you set up a budget. So yes, ask for help, reach out. If you don't know how to get started, there's plenty of resources to be able to help step in. One thing I will say, and we've talked about this before, is if you start doing your research online on videos and stuff, that's good. Just make sure that you know who you're getting your information from, because there can be some shady information that can be passed around that comes across as really good, solid information until you get knee deep in it and you're like, oh crap, this is not what I expected it to be. So
or worse, set yourself up to become a victim.
exactly.
Pass along that information. I saw that wheels in Justin's head going on that because he's always warning us about shady people in the world. So and Alex, I want to drill down on that for a second, because I know that there are people watching right now that are like, the bank will laugh at me if I go in and ask for help to save $100, or my situation is kind of messed up. There's probably no amount that's too little to come ask for help with, and no situation that you haven't seen before, right?
Absolutely correct. And that's ultimately what we're here for. I mean, we're here to serve those individuals that maybe the banks aren't interested in that kind of conversation. And that's not a slight on anyone, to be very clear. There's just serving two different types of people necessarily. So that's what we as a credit union are here for, is to help those individuals with any type of goal that they have. Happy to walk through any of that with anyone.
All right. So can we do this in 2025? Can we save? Can we change perhaps some habits that we shouldn't, and actually get on that saving path so that a year from now we can set a different goal for 2026? Is this doable?
Of course it's doable. And I mean, what better time? It's just historically and cliche, but this is when we do it. So there's no better time than now, even if now happens to be later this year, but because some of us are procrastinators. But yeah, taking that first step and give it a go. And viewers, anybody that needs help, check out your mobile banking apps, talk with your credit union or your bank. Anybody, you don't have to be a member here, reach out to us. We're glad to give you tips, tricks, and ideas, have a conversation, because when you get started and you start seeing progress, it feels really good. You're going to be glad you did it.
And have that conversation with your friends, with your family. Have everybody be aware of what you're trying to do, for that support and that understanding, and it probably will keep you on track longer, better, right?
That's right. Yeah. Involve your household, and it really can go a long ways. Instead of doing that expensive dinner out, maybe you do the dinner in and you have family board game night, card games, put a puzzle together. I mean, it can really be an opportunity to maybe do some of those things that we always say, oh, we should really have a card game night, but we never get around to it. Well, this can give some purpose to it.
And nobody in the house has a $5 bill, right? Because it's all
That's
So keep a couple small bills just in case, just not in your freezer. Keep a couple small bills just in case somebody comes around selling Girl Scout cookies for later on in the year. Alex, Justin, thank you so much for joining us. Great advice for starting the new year off right, and best of luck to everyone that's going to make saving a resolution for this year. We'll see you back here for Making Sense next episode. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.